Brien Rea was on that crew that called it last night. Another win for the Stars. Ho-hum, Brian. Seems like the Stars are rounding into form here, or just keep pedal to the metal, man. That's a very good hockey team that you're following.
Overall, it's been a good season. I agree with you on that. But considering they had dropped an ugly one to Calgary the game before on home ice where they gave up 5 unanswered, I think some fans, that's a sour taste to end a 5-game homestand on. So it was good to see them play that well in Winnipeg. And, oh, look at that. They get Calgary again tomorrow in Calgary. So we'll see how the do-over looks for the Stars in 24 hours.
Okay, I'm actually glad you brought up that Flames game because I watched a pretty good chunk of that one, and that one was wild. Yeah, they blew it. But from a pure hockey fans update perspective, if you like goals, that was a wild one. Like, that gets the ticker going, especially compared to last night, a shutout. I mean, I like defensive hockey, but the unpredictability of that game the day after Thanksgiving was insane.
The word that we kept using was loose, and it certainly felt like a game that was the day after Thanksgiving. You say if you like goals, I say if you like fire wagon hockey. You know, there's any way you can describe it, but it was entertaining, and I think if you're a Flames fan, to see a third period like that, especially after the way the season started for Calgary, and that month of October, that's probably one of those, okay, are we starting to see the spark that's going to turn things in the right direction? So from a Flames perspective, yeah, that was a heck of a game to watch. Disappointing from the Stars perspective, but from a goals perspective, that was a heck of a game the day after Thanksgiving.
Allie in Texarkana says, by the way, bring on the best broadcaster in the NHL. She's referring to you, and to be honest, you coming on this show has introduced us to Allie, and she watches us every day, so I appreciate that whole connection there. But, you know, I have to say this. I wonder if the Stars get their due. And I'll remind you, my dad worked for them for 26 years. Started in Minnesota, moved to Dallas in whatever, was it 93, 95, whatever, doesn't matter. This is one of the best teams in the NHL, going back to their Stanley Cup final appearance with Rick Bowness to now. They're always in it near the end. And I just feel like they don't get the respect that a team should that has their resume. Agree or disagree?
I don't know if I would use the word respect. I think, and maybe this is me just sort of accepting the fate of working in a market like Dallas and for a team like the Dallas Stars. If this team, the way they're playing right now, is playing in a Canadian market or an Original Six market, sure, there might be a few more spotlights and a few more trumpets blaring right now with what they've been able to do and how good their start has been. But you're playing in a market that is owned by the Dallas Cowboys, and it's the equivalent of the Maple Leafs in Toronto, the Yankees in New York, you know, the Cubs in Chicago when they're at the height of their success. It's the same thing down here in Texas. It's a football state, and the Cowboys are the big dog. Now, that being said, it's not like the Dallas Stars are doing this completely unnoticed and being completely ignored. You know, from a team perspective, I know that season ticket sales increased. They sold out the lower bowl of their arena after last year's run to the Western Conference Finals. So there obviously is an appetite for it, and they perked up a couple of years with that run they had last year, and obviously the hype going into this season. But I also think that it's not entirely a bad thing, and I'll give you an example of Miro Heiskanen, who last year I think started to get some real notoriety in the Norris Trophy conversation. Now, he didn't have the points. I think he was 7th in the final voting, but for a player like him, it really comes down to what you want. If he's playing in a Canadian market or a major media market, maybe his stock is a little higher just based on conversation. Maybe he gets award votes or individual votes a little more frequently if he's in a bigger market like that. But he gets to live a pretty laid back and comfortable life down here in Dallas, to where he can probably go to the grocery store and not have to worry about awkward conversations or being hounded because the team's in the middle of a losing streak or anything like that. So there is some benefits to being on a bit of an island down here in Dallas, where if you're the type of person that wants a little bit of a laid back lifestyle, or somebody like Matt Duchene, when I was chatting with him at the start of the year, he said he's always enjoyed just the culture of the South. And, he loved Nashville. He grew up in a musician family. Dallas was another city that he really just genuinely enjoyed. He's a big country music fan. So there's pros and cons to being right in the middle of the heat lamp and also being away from it. So you always want to be talked about more. You always want to garner more attention. But also at the end of the day, if you win hockey games, the attention is eventually going to find you.
Yeah, well said. And by the way, I just view Dallas as a hidden gem. Like when I'm there, I'm like, oh my God,
Sure.
everybody needs to know about this. But I think they're okay that not everybody knows about this. And I don't just mean the hockey team, I mean the city in general. I'm not done with that Jets game last night. Central Division clash. The standings are pretty tight. No, I'm just saying, Did you build that up like a huge Central clash? Because I'm looking at Winnipeg. You know how their fans are completely demoralized because they expect to win every game. But the Stars are just still better. Like how big of a game was that for the Stars in your mind?
I think any game within the Central Division is huge for the Dallas Stars. And you talk about Dallas being a hidden gem. They were in Winnipeg last night where it was frigid. I think it felt like it was 20 degrees. We've got 62 degrees outside, and we're about to enter December. So the fact that you can still play golf at this time of year, don't tell anybody, but that is also another perk of playing down here in Dallas. But for the Winnipeg Jets, I think also for Dallas locally, I mean, they've had some absolute knuckle-dragging battles with the Winnipeg Jets over the years. Scheifele and Ben have been at each other. It feels like every time they play, I know it was a 2-0 shutout last night, but it never feels like either team is comfortably in front. It's either an overtime finish or a one-goal finish or an empty netter or a late change. And going to that game last night, Winnipeg found their legs in that third period, and they were bringing some serious heat on Dallas, trying to protect that 1-0 lead. And then finally, Dallas flipped things around on a quick turnaround or a quick transition play, and Sagan gets the goal. And that kind of broke the back, it felt like, of the Jets and the fans in that game. But yeah, looking at the standings race, the fact that those two teams were tied entering that game, it's probably this way in the NHL regardless, but it just feels like the games within the Central Division have such a deciding factor in how the division will pan out. And Dallas finishing last year 1 point behind Colorado, there was a couple of games that were decided via the shootout or via overtime, and if Dallas wins one of those games as opposed to being on the wrong side of it, they're sitting as the number one seed and the winner of the Central Division as opposed to Colorado. I'm a little more patient. I still look at it that there's still 60-something games left, and a lot of things can happen and change. But division points, you bank them anywhere you can bank them, and Dallas did a good job getting those two last night.
Jeff, the Stampeders fan, writes in. He says, when I've been in Dallas, I can't get the old TV show theme song out of my head. Right? Do, 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 do. Yeah, the camera panning over Texas Stadium. Yeah, we all remember it. Great television show. Brian, lastly, yeah, go ahead. You look like you want to say something.
No, as long as Jeff recognizes who shot JR, the theme song will work itself out.
How about that?
I can't even remember who shot JR. And I watched it.
I can't either.
40 years ago.
And I remember just the dream sequence where Patrick Duffy woke up in the shower and it was a dream sequence because the audience hated that they killed him off the show or whatever happened. It was the worst rewrite.
And Victoria Principal. It was so great. Last question. You said the Flames next in Calgary Thursday. You talk about rivalries. They met in the playoffs not that long ago. I don't think these teams like each other very much, Flames and Stars.
It's been fun, and that's the great thing about a playoff series. They can enhance a rivalry, create a rivalry. Sometimes it's short-lived. Sometimes it buds into something longer term. I think we're sort of on the in-between with Calgary and Dallas right now, but that 7-game series was just so fantastic, and not just the 7th game, but really that whole series. And ever since then, before the last game against Calgary, I was looking this up. So the last 8 times the Stars and the Flames have met just regular season. 6 of those 8 have been decided by a goal. 2 of those 6 in overtime. And I think the Flames won both of the overtime finishes. So it's gotten to a point where these two teams can't play what I would say a normal hockey game. Something wacky happens, whether it's a goaltending duel, whether it's 5 unanswered goals for Calgary to take that last game, whether it's Dallas blowing open a big lead the first meeting on November 1st in Calgary. Then the Flames came roaring back, but Dallas held them off. And the road team has won each of the first 2 games of this series. So tomorrow's going to be really interesting, and I think a lot of fun to watch, because also it's not very often 2 teams face each other 3 times in a month. It's not just 2 times in the last 3 games for the teams, but they also played on November 1st. So 3 times in a month, the Stars and the Flames will see each other. I think tomorrow could be a really fun game to watch, regardless of how it turns out.
I will guarantee you weren't alive. November 21st, 1980, the episode aired. The person who pulled the trigger and shot JR was Kristen Shepard. She was JR's scheming sister-in-law and mistress who shot him in a fit of anger.
Spicy.
See what we solved today?
This is what we do. We do hockey and we do 80s dramas. This is we cover everything.
Approved.
Love it. Love it. Okay, man, keep it up. Keep up the great work, and thanks for coming on today. I always appreciate it.
Good to talk to you. Have a happy holidays, and I don't talk to you beforehand.
Yeah, you too. Brien Rea, Bally Sports TV, Dallas Stars TV host.